Well, welcome to another episode of My Life in Football. And of course, joining us today, we're very pleased to say he's Dave Northfield, of course, a joint manager at Biggleswade FC. And it's lovely to have you on, sir. I know you're a very, very busy man today, but how is everything?
Yeah, all good. Well, very busy. It's absolutely mental. It's a Friday, so hence I almost missed your meeting, but fingers crossed we'll be okay for a little while.
No, that's all right. No worries. So, Dave, we'll start off, as me and Steve always do, and we'll start off with the first question. I mean, how did you first get involved in football in the first place?
Well, from school, to be honest, I was always, like I am now, overweight at school. Played for the school team, left school, and I'd actually played a reasonable level of rugby at school, basically because I think of my size and I could bash people out of the way. So when I left school, actually, Biggleswade Rugby Club got in touch. So I played 4 games for Biggleswade Rugby Club without ever touching the ball. The scrum collapsed on me once and I saw the old lights and I thought, I don't want to be doing this anymore. So I went down and trained at Biggleswade United. And the guy in charge at the time said, if you're going to get a game down here, you're going to need to lose some weight. And I think I managed to shift at the time about 2 stone, and managed to get, and I ended up playing for their reserves. And that's really where it started. I played at Biggleswade United reserves for 2 or 3 seasons. I think I managed the side for a season, and then moved on from there to.
Just testing our
that's right. Now alarms being tested. Then I was involved with running my own Sunday side. We had originally had a side that I worked for called Panel Plus, and then Sandy AS Sundays, which was Sandy Albion Sundays. When Jess Piggott was still alive, I ran that, and then I moved around local football. Really, played a bit to the level I could play for Monash. So I then ended up going over to Ickwell and Old Warden. I managed their reserves to win a couple of titles with them. In fact, we was in the same league as Biggleswade United at the time, and I managed to pip them on 2 occasions. And then from there moved to Caldecott, where we won. I was there 2 seasons. We won the Premier Division, the League Cup. I was manager of the league team, and we won that trophy. And we also won, I think, the Biggleswade Knockout Cup. So we had 4 trophies in a year. Although the league team was a team from all the sides. And from that, Biggleswade Town got in touch. And then it's gone from there. So I managed Biggleswade Town probably very late 90s, I think. Might even been a little bit later for 6 seasons. I'm not going to tell you I was overly successful, but we held our own. We picked up probably 4 or 5 trophies with them. The Hunt's Premier Cup and a League Cup and a couple of bits and pieces for them.
So, I mean, when you first started off, though, Dave, I mean, when you first got into that thing, what was that like going into moving over from rugby into football? I mean, was that a bit of a difference in what was going on down there at Biggleswade, and what was that like for a young man going in there and someone actually going in there and actually saying to you, well, look, you can come and play for us, but you've got to lose a bit of weight for us to come in and do it?
Well, it's probably the best thing in some terms what happened to me, because it was great not playing rugby, by the way. I was clearly not made for that. Wasn't brave enough for that. I'm not going to lie about in any way with that. And football was always my passion anyway. But for obvious reasons, if in no uncertain terms, if you're the fat kid at school, you don't have too many choices. I did play for the school team, but then I was probably I'm guessing I was 10th, 11th choice. And so leaving, it was probably the best thing. Once I moved across there, probably the best thing happened, because it was the job I probably needed. And to be fair, I ended up running the roads every night and everything else for a long time. I've always kept myself, whilst I played, I kept myself in good nick, because I had to be the fittest I could possibly be to get into them sides. You know, I was playing manager at Ickwell, and when I moved to Caldecott, which was only a Step 7 league, I wasn't good enough. You know, I had players that were far better than me. I couldn't get a game. I finished playing football probably 29, which is a shame. But the fact is that you know, I've clearly become a million times better guy running a side than I ever did playing. Unfortunately, you know, and that's really it. I was a poor footballer. So
can you remember your first? Can you remember your first game though?
I do, yeah. It was a game. It was against someone very famous. We played. They were called Electrolux from Luton.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and God, what's the singers? Paul, the guy that sung "Wherever I Lay My Hat, There's My Home." He was playing.
Paul Young.
Paul Young played for those. So not the time do I know. There's only once, you know, you get a little bit along the line and you realise who he was, and then he became the singer. So that's probably the most famous thing I think I've done in football terms.
Did you set him in the stand?
Sorry, I didn't. I'll be honest with you. The first thing I really recall from that game, and the thing I do remember, is that everything was coming out the sky, and there was this 16-year-old, and I had to head a ball. I had to head a ball that was coming at me from out the sky at pace, and from that, difference between that and school football is massive. And I woke up quite quick, you know, and I did okay in the game. But my God, it was a wake up call, because it was like, you've got to head this. You know, I'm sure at school I probably ducked out of a few. But you know, when you're playing alongside men, you're not ducking out of the ball, are you? You've got to make the header. If not, you'll probably not be playing with the men for very long. I remember at the time, I think I got the game because they were probably short. But I managed to, you know, stay in and around that side. So I'd obviously did okay, but I was as basic could be.
What league were Biggleswade Town in when you took over there, Dave?
Yeah, they were Spartan Premier.
Yeah,
I think it was. Well, it was. I think it was just South Midlands at the time. I might be wrong, but and I've got a feeling. I might be wrong. They might already joined, because you had the Spartan and the South Midlands joined together, didn't you? Which became, yeah. That may well have been. I've got a feeling that it was in amongst that time.
Yeah, I played for Biggleswade in the early '80s, and it was it was a hell of a journey from Kettering with no A14.
Was that with people like? Would that have been with people like John Mills and people like that?
Yeah, he was there. Yeah, that was the South Midlands League. Yeah. Yeah,
well, that's my first recollection of watching football, which was Biggleswade Town, because I remember the fans being 2 or 3 deep along the road.
Yeah.
You know, there was a big crowd at the time. They had a good side back in them days. So you would know Mug, unlike me.
We're skipping on a bit. I know we're skipping on a few years, but I'm always amazed when because we played against Biggleswade Town a few weeks ago in the under 18 league, and you know, they're lovely new ground. Well, their ground's lovely there, but it amazes me how there's 3 clubs in a small town like Biggleswade. I know you play at Bedford, but you know, it amazes me how a small town like Bedford got 3 reasonable level clubs.
Yeah. Well, look, there's some easy answers to it. You may know that we started. So our side started as Biggleswade Town under 18. So I spoke to Morris at the time and said, look, they were all lads that were released by pro clubs. They were from Ipswich.
I played against them.
Yeah, Cambridge. And we had, you know, so we had a good side, and spoke to Morris at the time and said, look, is there a chance of living in under 18s? He said yes. And, you know, at the end of the day, we may not be there now, but Morris gave us our first chance. And we started the side back in that tape, in the days, and we won the Furlough None 2 years running in their championship. And when it was coming towards the end, quite strange. I hadn't seen Skip in years and years, and we ended up. My son and a couple of our 18s were invited to play in a pre-season friendly at Ainsbury Rovers for with Chris Nunn and the first team, Biggleswade Town first team. I went across there to watch Lee and saw Skip, and it went from there. He realised he was involved with an 18s. We ended up, I think we ended up with a friendly. Well, that was the season. That was the first season we were doing it. We ended up with a friendly the following year. I ended up then being. He asked me would I come and help run the Ainsbury under 21s. He had a 21s for a season that I helped with. That's when I ended up doing Ainsbury first team for a few games. But I always said to him that next season we'd already spoke about in terms of trying to keep our side together. So I knew that Biggleswade Town were not interested in another side, another senior side or men's side. So it was always going to be a brand new team. So we just went from there. So that's how we evolved, and our side was full of a lot of Biggleswade boys and all sorts, but they're all come from a good level. And we then, and so the answer to your question about the other two sides, Biggleswade Town have always, because they've always been the highest side, level 3, and Chris in charge. You know, they were going into different areas for their players. You know, other than Peter Gatti, I think, who played for me when I was Towns manager, they were, you know, bringing lads in. You know, we're looking at in a different pot to us, which left Biggleswade United. Biggleswade United have probably gone the same route. You know, they fetched people in from, you know, when they were moved leagues this year, and when it harmed them because they were bringing a lot of people in from sort of the edge of North London, Dunstable area and what have you, and of course it caused them a problem when they moved into the UCL, and these lads didn't want to travel, so I know that caused them some problems. But they were also going to a different pot, so it's allowed us our position in the town, although we're not there at this present stage, but allowed us to set our side up, and we've now got two sides, a successful reserve side that are virtually all from Biggleswade and the surrounding villages. You know, and we feel we're doing things. We think we're doing things right. You know, it's just how it's worked out. You know, I mean, if you know, you're talking 3 teams. Is other than our sub-3 clubs, it's not like Bedford where you go to Bedford, you've got 3 senior. I know it's a bigger place, 3 senior teams in Bedford. But then you've got so many teams that play in the county league that then you're talking Bedford's probably got 30 teams in the surrounding villages and areas. So I think you know, none of us at this present stage tread on any toes. We've never been, bar the odd loan, we've never been in a position where we've been able to go into the type of player that Biggleswade Town have had. It's been an odd player that's come from United to us. Tom Cookman in particular, that was massive to us at the start. Moved across, but it was also at the time he was my youngest daughter's father. So that was an easy switch across at the time. But there's not been many that have moved across. It's just, you know, we have generally stayed pretty much apart in terms of where we go looking. You know, they have their way of finding players, and we have ours. So look, I'm sure there'll be at some stage there'll be a clash. You know, Biggleswade Town, they got relegated yesterday, so we're now in the same league next season. So that'll you know, all of a sudden perhaps we are fishing in the same pond, you know. But
what do you think about that one then?
I think, look, I was a Biggleswade Town manager, so I in terms of if you'd have said to me, pick 2 teams to come down because of crowd value for us, I'd have taken Hitchin and Biggleswade Town because we're losing Bedford Town. So from that point of view, it's a great fixture for us, and we're playing Biggleswade Town, and it will guarantee us on our home game probably between 200 and 300. So revenue-wise, it's brilliant. but it'll just, but I know what I'm like. Every time, you know, when we came through the leagues and we played Biggleswade United, it was always the pressure of playing a Biggleswade side for me, because I was born in Biggleswade, I was born in Dowsday and Biggleswade. I've managed and played, or I've played and done a bit of managing at Biggleswade United. I've managed Biggleswade Town. The pressure's immense on me because of, for me, the town, it's such a big game. So it means loads to me. So as much as it will be a great fixture for the club, I know I'll be like, it'll be ridiculous, because it will, you know, in the years when I managed Biggleswade Town, which against Biggleswade United, if you beat them, it was the greatest feeling in the world. And if you lost them, you know, you felt like you just lost your arm. It was that way. I mean, at the time with their manager Snowy Wright, you know, we always got on well, but he was in the same boat. It's like, Christ, it's you lot, you know, and you could come out of it in, you know, I know it's not Glasgow, it's not Rangers and Celtic, but the fact is, it was like, Christ, we've got done by him. You know, and I'm sure along the line, you probably look at our fixtures United when I was at Town, and probably now, and they're all pretty much 50-50, you know, in terms of we've shared it around. But you know, it'll be a great fixture, but the pressures it will bring for both of us will be massive. You know, I hope we win them both, because it'll be 6 points and what have you. But it's a great fixture for us, and then, as I say, only from a purely selfish point of view, I'd have loved Hitchin Town as well, because then we'd have got 400 or 500 for a home game. So from that point of view, you know, no other reason. I've got no animosity to either of them. In fact, two of our lads went to Hitchin and come back. So I've always got on well with them. If Robbie's still manager of Biggleswade Town next year, I get on really well with Robbie O'Keefe. So, you know, we get on fine. We played at Biggleswade Town. In a lot of respects, I wish he was still there, but you know, in the end, we couldn't afford to be there. So that was a decision. But other than wanting to beat them in 3 points, you know, that'll be it.
So, Dave, I mean, with this, you know, go back to your plan bit. We'll come back to your, you know, the managing bit with Biggleswade in a bit. But I mean, going into your, you know, into that, you say you played your first game, really, really nervous. I mean, did you play again in the game straight after that, or I stayed
in and around the side, but you know, that's why I'm quite honest. I wasn't very good. So it was always, you know, a struggle for me to get into the side at the time. So I think I stayed at United for 2 or 3 seasons. I ended up managing the reserves for probably the reserves, I think, for 1 season before coming away. And I actually applied to manage the first team after leaving the club. But at the time, I can't think who they chose, but they chose somebody else, which and look, they've had a successful time of it, so they got that right. But I about 2 or 3 seasons. Like I say, Sean, I want to dress it up. I want to tell you I was great. I wasn't.
How young was you when you decided that, you know, you wanted to look into management?
Straight away, really. I mean, I was doing a Sunday side. I've always been my strength is probably being a people person and an organizer and whatever goes with it. I've always run a Sunday side. I then done, as I say, a bit of Biggleswade United reserves, and then all of a sudden I'm doing. I actually played in Ickwell's first team for a year, and then ended up running their reserves. So I've done it all the time. It's probably why I got so many games. I picked myself in them early years, didn't I? So, I've always done it. That's probably been my big strength, and hence probably with the business as well. It's my strength is the managing side of it and the people side of it.
So what was it? What was the first game what was the first club you managed? What and what was your first game? Can you remember?
I couldn't remember the first game. Like I say, Sunday sides certainly couldn't remember in them days. And even when I went to, and again, Biggleswade United would have been the first Saturday side I did with the result, and it was their reserves, don't forget. I can't remember. I honestly can't. Yeah, not even try.
I've got a question for you. As we've both done this, I'll see what your answer is compared to mine. Do you prefer managing under 18 football or adult football?
Well, the under 18s for 2 seasons was just the best time ever. Obviously, you know, we had Keenan Davis playing with us as well at the time. And we were very spoilt. So everybody that played for that 18s was from pro sides. So it was the easiest time and the best time because we were so strong. And you have that set of players, and we didn't need to add to them. You know, we had the best sweet box in the world. But then I have to say that because we started this from the ground, this has been as enjoyable as anything that we've done. I've done, and certainly I think from Skippy's point of view and the whole club, you know, we've had some great success. We won SML Division 1. After 2 seasons, we won the SML Premier. We've had the 2 years curtailed in this league, but even this year, the worst case would be 9th, but I think we hopefully can secure 8th, which is not bad because
I think that's in fact I've just written my preview for tomorrow's games, and I've mentioned there the fact that I think that's a fantastic achievement, really, considering you know what the teams in that division.
Yeah, you look at the home we're at the moment, you know, with Bedford, who are great people, but their ambition is you know, it's not step 3 where they're going to now. Their ambition is conference.
Yeah.
And be honest with you, the people behind the club, I think they'll achieve it. I don't, you know, whether the manager they've got, whether they achieve it in 1 season, I don't know, but I think they're capable. I think Setchell, he'll add what he needs to add. Obviously, they've got a bit the financial power to do it, but they're a big club, so why shouldn't they? You know, they're when they're getting crowds of between 600 and 1,000. So
I mean, they're a traditional non-league club, aren't they? You know.
Yeah, and it's such a well-run club. You know, and the support they get's just amazing. I mean, we're over the moon with what we've got at the moment. People coming from Biggleswade and supporting us, but Bedford as a side. You know, if we had that clout, we'd be possibly in a different position. We don't think we're too far away, and without a doubt, you know, in terms of budget sizes, I would imagine we are so far bottom it's untrue. So we try and do things as a football club differently, and just try and look after them as best we can and make it and they're all cliches, but we are as a family club, you know, and the fact that the 2 Marsh boys left to go to another big club in Hitchin, and trust me, they've come back with no moans and groans about them whatsoever. But they've come back and they're to enjoy, you know, and they're enjoying their football. So it's.
In fact, Alex could win the Golden Boot, couldn't he?
He could do, yeah. And you've come across him, of course, through 18s, and it's you know, for someone like him, and when we originally got Tom Coles to come and move across to us, you know, says quite a lot, I think, about what we're doing and how we're doing it. Because you don't often get players move away and come back. Adam Hunt did it in the 2nd or 3rd season and came back quickly. He wasn't enjoying it at all when he moved across to Welling. It's not been quite. It's not really what the 2 Marshes have said, but they have come back because they enjoy the football. You know, we sort of, they get. I'm saying this wrong, so it's kind of going to go at another club, and they're not that at all. But they come. Maybe they're bit more freedom with us. You know, if you go to a Hitchin town, and I know Alex, I think they played them on the right before, then there's more pressure on Hitchin town to do better than there is to achieve than us. Yeah. So you can play with a bit more freedom with us, enjoy, and Alex Alex will do, sometimes he'll do things on the pitch which are unbelievable, and sometimes he'll do things on the pitch that will drive us nuts. But what he won't do is he don't, very rarely do any of these lads get coated for it. We don't go in the changing room and scream and shout. We encourage them to play, and sometimes it will come off, and you'll watch a goal or you see a bit of play and you go wow. And sometimes in some of the games we'll give away cheap goals. We'll miss great opportunities because someone hasn't lifted his head and give it 10 yards because they're trying to do something stupid, But at the same time, they're at a club where we're allowed to do it. If we were a Bedford Town or a Hitchin Town or even a Biggleswade Town, then probably the pressure's a completely different thing on them. With the pressure's on, but it's our club, so it's not like we're spending tons of money, because we're not, and it's not like at those clubs that I'm sure Sed's coming at Bedford Town, and they probably gave him one thing to do and one thing only: win the league, get out of the league. Well, we're not like that. We're not in that position to be like that, but we're also, even if we were, we run the club in a way that we still want these lads to be able to play. James Pettiew's pro licensed coach that does our coaching. You watch some of his sessions, and they're enjoyable sessions. It's still all about playing. Of course, we go long now and again, but the truth is, we go short first. And I think the lads enjoy playing for us, and I think people that come and watch us, the supporters of which have been brilliant, enjoy how we try and play. As I say,
but you must be doing something right there, because, and I'm not saying that because you're here in front of us, but everybody, Mark Inskip used to wax lyrical about the club all the time whenever I spoke to him. I had a lad playing for me a couple of years ago, Henry Langley, who played in your reserves.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, fantastic club, love it there." Whatever.
He's still with us. We've got.
Yeah, he's at university though, isn't he? Yes.
And he drives, but he's been driving down from university Saturdays and midweeks to play for reserves.
Yeah, lovely lad.
He's a great lad, and his dad turns up. So when Henry can't make it down, his dad's still there watching.
Yeah.
So and which says quite a bit, doesn't it? About when they're prepared to do it. It's good.
But you was talking about Golden Boot earlier on for the league, and of course I'm a bit biased and hoping that Alex Reid gets 2 on the weekend, and the Dunstable guy don't score, and he nicked it. But that's just me personally. But that's where that is, and of course by doing that, and if we could win tomorrow as well, that would help you out as well. If you can win as well, because that would give you, if you win, that would give you the 8th place.
Correct. Yeah, it'd be great if we get Barton a very good side. But look, they'll be saying the same. It's winnable tomorrow, Saturday. It is tomorrow, yeah. It's winnable tomorrow. So, and I've already had a message. I mean, Marshy, he'd probably admit to say that last week he maybe didn't pass a couple of times when he should, because he had that golden boot in his eyes, and I dare say we'll get a bit of it tomorrow. But it'd be great if he could push Birdie, because BJ Christie's as good as you're gonna meet. I think last year during the lockdown he was scoring goals for Hemel in step 2. So he certainly should and could have been playing a lot higher than he is at his present stage.
Dave, you said that with Biggleswade, of course, it was an under-18 side, and then you moved it up into sort of men's football. So where did Biggleswade start as men's football? What level did you come in at?
Step 6.
So you come in at step 6.
Yeah, we went to the meeting. We went to a meeting we had to go to Wembley because you have to apply for step 6. Obviously, we had the ground because of Morris, the Biggleswade Town. But we went to the meeting, and you had to put your business plan together. At the time, myself and Skip went to the first meeting, and we had in the meeting we put down that we thought we could get 45 fans, and we could make and a £5 a ticket, it would be this much. And the guy at the time, and I think he was chairman of the Northern Premier League, the guy speaking to us, and he laughed us out of the meeting. He just said, I think his words were, you know, you've turned up here with a business plan written on the side of the matchbox. Yeah, on the side of the matchbox. You'll never get them fans. You'll never get that. And where I say we went through all the meeting, and before we got a mile up the road, we got the phone call to say that we'd failed, and we wouldn't be given step 6. So that was how good the first meeting went, to try and get into it. So we'd resigned ourselves before we got back to Biggleswade to playing probably county league football, step 7, because we'd been turned down to go in step 6. It's just it just went on quite quickly from that, with a phone call saying, "Are you going to appeal?" Of which at the time I said, "Well, no, I'm not." And the guy again said, "Are you going to appeal?" And I said, "Well, no, there's no point." He said, "Yeah, there is. You should never have been turned down. You know, you know, there was absolutely no reason to turn you down. You've got the facilities, you've got everything we'd done correct." So we put in an appeal, and on the second occasion we took our chairman Jeremy with us, who spoke on our behalf, and obviously we'd done a lot more work. It wasn't just a simple wheel appeal and we turned up. We obviously put a lot, even more work into it. And on that day again, before we got back to Biggleswade, we were in, and it kind of went from that. You know, it was quite surreal. We was on the big table in the room with the pictures of the World Cup final and things on the wall, and we were, you know, we won it on the appeal.
When you started as a Step 6 club, though, Dave, did you start off with a complete under-18 side that you had before, or did you have adults? Did you bring adults in?
We started with everyone that stayed with us from the 18s, which was out of, say, 14. We'd already lost King, obviously got the Villa. I think we started with about, I'd say, 10, and we added. I'm trying to think to that first year. We added, and Skip had been doing under 18s, and I'd been involved with only a few 21s. And I think we added, the only senior player we added that first season was Tom Cookman, who really had to sort of, you know, he fought most of our battles for us on the pitch. We brought in, we had to bring in a new keeper. I think we brought Nathan across from Ainsbury. We brought 2 or 3 boys across from the 2018s and 21s as such from Ainsbury. And we started as that. We just added as it went along. In the first season, we added 1 or 2 senior players. I think we had Nick Henneberry on the first season as well, who was, I guess he was probably 24. When you think we were 19s, you know, that's quite senior compared with our people. He was outstanding the first season. So we just added, and as we went along that season, we added not many, but we added the odd player. And kind of got over the line. Again, the first year we didn't know where we really were. We were thinking, let's hope we can hold our own, because it's men's football. Obviously, the history is that we ended up winning it. I think at the time Bulldog were the biggest chasers to us, who were, Christ, they were a proper physical men's side, and we managed to pip them. I think we killed them off, killed their sort of chase off right late in the season with a last-minute equaliser from the penalty from a game. Had they beat us, I think it was 2-1, they were in front at the time, and they'd have beat us. Whether we'd have survived the pressure on us, I don't know, but I think that kind of, I think it cracked them, if you like, you know, because they had it in their hands there. That last-minute penalty just done them in. I think they then drew the next game, and we then were able to breathe, because it wasn't, you know, we were trying to get across the line. It was difficult. But yeah, that's kind of, that's how it went. It was.
The reason I ask is, I mean, Mark Inskip will tell you, I've had some pretty decent sides over the years.
Oh, no, yeah.
But the difference when you then push them into adult football is the physicality of it. I've always shied away from trying to put a whole squad, if you like, into adult.
Yeah, well, it was only the 1 or 2, and we had to grow up fast. I mean, if you look at our reserves, who are all young and they've got some 16s and 17s in that, you know, one or two, and you'd be right with your thinking, because some of them, you know, there's a few of those from that first side, quite a few that are no longer with the club. There's a lot that's still there, and it's like in all levels of football. You know, we may be at this level now, but they quickly go like that, and play, and especially with us going up to the leagues we've gone to. So some of these boys have been released by the pro clubs, and they've gone on, and obviously some of them have dropped by the wayside because where they've gone to work, different relationships or what have you. But I think we've got 5 or 6 from that squad still with us. But you know, I understand what you're saying. You're right. We just kind of positioned ourselves there. We were, because I think we were at Biggleswade, on Biggleswade ground. It was, you know, you was there with a top class facility. So we went for the 6, and we did feel that was a level we should go into. But you are right. I'm sure. I mean, we have an 18s with our with us now. So as an FC 18s, and Matt, who runs them, has talked about at some stage putting them into the men's league. But he's actually looking at going low level county league. I just think it was probably the level of boys we had at the time. I mean, they had, you know, as I said, luckily, selfishly, whatever the right word is, they'd all come from pro clubs. So very sport. Everybody was a player, and these lads, young lads, come through all the levels, and there's some great players come through, by the way, far better than some of the boys we had there. But the fact is that, you know, most sides as you've managed, you've had some. I bet you've had some real extremely good lads, and you've got others that, you know, it's very rare you get 13, 14 boys all of the same level. And so I understand where he was coming from, but at the same time, look, it's one of those, isn't it? You chuck them at some stage. You've got to chuck them in the water and see if they can swim, sort of thing. And that's what we got. But you know, on the day, as I said to you, we had the biggest person. The biggest praise I'll give it was Tom Cookman, because he came and played for us. Okay, it was a bit of pressure because of the relationship at the time with my daughter. So he was always going to come across. But you know, you're talking about a guy that led us through every battle going. If one of them, Tom's probably had brilliant thing. Tom's had more yellow cards and red cards than anyone I know, and he picked up a few protecting them kids. You know, that's what he was like, and he led the line for us. Unbelievable. Hence now, I think he's around 30, 31. The boy's knees are gone. He's had injuries and all sorts, because he'd go through. You know, if you want someone in the trench, you'd have him in a trench with you. But he suffered probably because of it in the end. And we had to add one or two like that. But you know, they were almost protectors, if you like. Can't think the right wording, but they were the heavies, and the lads were able to play football because of it.
You went into step 5, Dave. I mean, how long was you in step 5 for before managing to get the promotion to step 4?
We won it the second season. We come 5th or 6th, I think, in the first. And again, they were all a bit bigger. They were bigger players, more physical players when we got into that. But the second season, again, we added one or two that we knew we had to add. We had a Spanish lad with one season. He's gone back to Spain now, Bennett, and who was unbelievable for us at the back. And we had a top side then. Well, we actually reached the quarterfinals of the Vars. We'll regret that for the rest of the life, because we threw that away. We should have managed minimum semi-final, because on the day against Canterbury, I think we played it another 50 times, we could play. I think we'd win it 45 big-headedly, but we just let ourselves down the day, maybe one or two nerves. But we had a good side. We lost one or two in that season. We went into step 4. Then we picked up one or two good players again. So we just keep evolving. But the big thing is, you know, when I was talking about the financial clout. You know, there's so many lads that we would like to get on board, but we're not in there. You know, we're not able to fish in that pond as well. So about Biggleswade Town and that, you know, and Biggleswade United, that they've always been able to, and rightfully so. They've got their own facilities and everything else, and it's something where we'd like to get to. But we, like I say, we do what we can to get boys across the line. You know, I've had a chat with a couple of lads in literally the last couple of days, who, if we could get them across the line, will improve us another 20-25%. And we're only talking about a couple in such key positions for us. So, you know.
What about the next stage then, Dave, in terms of moving back to Biggleswade itself, ground-wise? Is there any plans for that?
That's the only plan. You know, the Bedford move was literally. It's only ever a short-term move. From Bedford's point of view, they have been kind enough to give us somewhere for. They gave us 2 years with a potential third. That's as long as they want to do it, which we fully understand. I understand, and let's be straight. That's as long as we want to be there. And that's not in a rude way, because what a facility is unbelievable, and the people there are just brilliant people. But we want to come back to Biggleswade. We've got a good fan base that come out and watch us all the time. You know, we're averaging 140 plus. The away support's incredible, and we want to get back. So the truth is, without telling you, because there's so much stuff going on in the background, there's no. I wouldn't be able to tell you anyway, but you know, there's a lot of important people in and around Biggleswade that are helping us to get back. Now, whether that be something new, whatever it be, that's the push. You know, we've got a big support behind us to do it in terms of some influential people. It's not going to happen tomorrow. We thought it was going to happen, and we thought something would be happening during this season. However, that has taken a bit of a knock through no fault of ours, by the way. That's down to I can't say too much, but something within the town that stopped. But we are, you know, we're pushing hard, and well, we need to find a home, because Bedford, we've only got a short-term deal with Bedford, and like I say, we had a meeting with Bedford this week. They're aware of what's going on, and I know they know through John Taylor, who's involved with lands and everything else, that he's aware of what's going on and he understands. He may be able to help along the line, but you know, it's potential. The potential of a ground is monstrous to us, and we think, you know, if we could get that, we might grow even bigger. You know, it's one of those. Sorry, I can't give you too much because I can't, and I'm not involved with that side of it. That's more Skip's side, but because you know the business and whatever he's in. But he's been the head of them meetings and developments.
Sell a few more houses and get a bit.
He needs to. He does, or give us some of his money would be nice, because we know he's got loads.
Well, listen, Dave. I mean, final question for you before we let you get back to work. I mean, next season, I mean, what's the plan next season? Is the plan next season to sneak into those playoffs or win it automatically, or is it to be the number one side in Biggleswade, you know, sort of level wise, but at the end of the season next year?
Well, obviously, we'd like to be the number one in Biggleswade. If we can come above Biggleswade Town, then that'd be brilliant, because we've got to be above them if we want to be in the playoffs or in around the playoffs. So the answer is yes. I want to be we want to be the top side in Biggleswade, 1,000,000%. I do, being a Biggleswade guy. But the one thing we found, and maybe we'd like to hope it's echoing the step 5, is that we've had a season in this division. We've just been on a run 21 games and only 4 defeats in 21 games. Hopefully, we're not going to add to the defeat to that tomorrow. But we've been on that run, so we know we're more than holding our own. We had an awful start. If we could add the 2 and stroke third lad that we're talking to, why not? Why can't we be in the playoffs? We're not far off it now. I think we're 9 points from being in it, which is not bad from a side that's definitely, I say he's punching at times, but we're 9 points off the playoffs. We dropped points. We got beaten by. We dropped 4 points to the 2 teams at the moment, the first and the bottom and second bottom. So you add that, and we've nicked some points when we've been up against it, and we've lost a lot of points when we felt we was in good nick. But if we keep everything together and touch wood with the boys, we're talking to them, we hope we're going to keep every player we've got, add to it. Why not? There's every reason we can. And if we're not going to, if we don't believe we can, what's the point of being a football club?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, mate, we wish you all the very, very best with Biggleswade, and hope that all those bits and bobs for you come right, and hopefully you'll get that 8th place. And I'll have a chat with Danny Chapman, make sure he pulls out the win, and tomorrow for you as well, so you get that position. But listen, massive thank you for joining us today. Really, really enjoyed the hour we've had to chat to each other. Hopefully everything goes well with your business and everything else as well. Massive thank you, of course, to Steve for joining us as well. Me and Steve we'll be back, and our next chat is hopefully going to be with an ex-Leighton Orient legend in Mr. Steve Castle, of course, who is the manager at the present minute time of Royston Town.
My biggest partner played with him. The same team. If you want to speak to him, he played with Stevie Castle. Yeah. Christ.
Yeah. Quality man. Looking forward to that one. But until then, thank you for everybody for watching, and good night.